Okay, welcome, and we will call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. So to start off, we'll start with roll call. District 1, present. District 2,
Present.
District 3, present. District 4,
Present.
District 5,
Present.
District 6,
Present.
District 7,
Present.
District 8,
Present.
District 9,
Present.
District 10,
Present.
citywide.
Present.
Okay, so we have quorum. So we'll move on to our consent calendar, which will consist of all of the items listed. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Commissioner Liu moves to approve the consent calendar.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Gonzalez needs second that motion.
Do we have any discussion? Okay, then we'll move into a vote. Okay, the motion passes and we'll be moving into public record. We have one written correspondence.
This is from Lillian. She wrote, I was not able to speak on the topic of wellness during the presentation on January 22nd, 2024. San Jose Unified School District is implementing wellness centers at various schools in their district. One was at Ohlone School. They, the board, discussed peer support groups as being very important. Please review their approach to mental health on campus for your students. I am a substitute teacher with San Jose Unified School District and spoke at the recent board meeting concerning the San Jose Unified School District Police Advisory Committee. There was a survey for students on police on campus, and the two students at the police advisory meeting stated it was confusing and the students were not sure how to answer the questions. Please review their approach to police on campus safety for students' equity issues.
All right, thank you. And we'll move into open forum.
Okay, we have three speakers. Please line up. The first, please approach the podium is Mariani Santana, Solomon Yum, and David Anderson. So first up is Mariani Santana.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mariani Santana. I was born and raised in Eastside San Jose, and I am currently an educator in District 3. I am here to express my concern about the increase of homelessness in the area surrounding Virginia and Locust. Just 2 Fridays ago, what appeared to be an intoxicated homeless man came onto our campus with his pants down. Luckily that day, students did not have class, but most staff members were on campus. A coworker and I asked the man to leave, and luckily the situation did not escalate from there. Many families commute on foot, and I constantly hear conversations among students talking about what happened in their neighborhood. It's important for our kids to have a safe transition from home to school in order for them to be 100% ready to learn. I understand homelessness is just a part of the problem. My goal for speaking today is to bring awareness of what is happening in this community because there's likelihood it's happening elsewhere. I would like for this to be another reason to brainstorm ideas to protect our youth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Solomon. I'm a student from De Anza College and a resident of District 1 in San Jose. I've come here to propose to the Youth Commission the implementation of security checks on school campuses. The reason for these assessments would be to identify possible vulnerabilities and areas needing improvement, strengthening security within school zones. School safety continues to remain a major concern in America, with the numbers of school shootings continuously increasing. Implementing security checks would overall heighten the overall safety of the campus, keeping the student population safe. Using security checks to create a safe environment allows students to focus on their academics, and school should be a place intended to nurture education and learning. A student's only concern should be about their academics and not their lack of safety at school. An example of this would be recently at UC Berkeley, students were alerted of a shooting nearly half an hour after the initial incident took place. This put the students in significant danger due to the delayed notification. Security checks not only offer insight into a school's overall emergency preparedness, but also identify areas requiring improvement. This process enables schools to refine and update their emergency response plans to ensure students and staff are ready for potentially dangerous situations. This minimizes risk while protecting lives during possible events. Please consider implementing security checks on school campuses. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Anderson. I am a student at De Anza College and a San Jose resident. I'm here to speak on the subject of art programs in youth communities such as appreciation of arts, music, and drama. Having art programs in schools and youth communities in San Jose and the Bay Area as a whole would be a huge benefit to the youth in our cities. I feel the funding for schools and other youth communities towards arts has been lacking for proper teaching in said subjects. With that said, I feel as though if we put more funding into the arts, it could potentially help point kids in the right directions, whether it would be a career path, a productive hobby, or most importantly, a way to help express themselves in a productive and positive way. In 2024, mental health awareness is the strongest it has ever been, and providing kids with art programs could be a great opportunity in helping children. This could also develop a love, passion, and life skill that will be carried with them for the rest of their lives. I have been a musician and an artist since 2010, and art has helped me throughout my life, stress with college, work, and scenarios that have been swung at me, which have been rough. However, the arts have been the perfect outlet to help get me through troubling times. I wish for kids to be given the same opportunity as I have and express themselves in an honest, safe, and productive way. Thank you for giving me the time to speak, and that is all.
All right, thank you. We can move on to our discussion action item, the Children and Youth Services Master Plan.
Chair, can you call for a 10-minute recess?
Do we have a motion for a 10-minute recess?
Commissioner Liu moves to a 10-minute recess.
Actually, never mind.
And Commissioner Liu withdraws the motion.
Good evening, Commissioners. Laura Buzo with the City of San Jose, Assistant City Manager, supporting Deputy City Manager Angel Rios with the development of the Children Youth Services Master Plan. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. I wanted to share with you an update on where we are with the Children Youth Services Master Plan. I know over the past year and a half or so, we've been able to come and provide you updates on everything from our design process to our community engagement. So a lot of work has taken place over the last year and a half. So happy to be here to share the update. So I wanted to start off first, and I know that you're all pretty knowledgeable about our community needs, but just for the general public, the Children Youth Services Master Plan really came about because of the City Council's interest in making sure that we as a city do our best to elevate and uplift the experience of young people. We know that many San Jose children, youth, and adults experience a number of barriers and challenges that place them at risk for vulnerable or negative experiences: poverty, lower educational attainment, housing instability, violence, and poor health outcomes. The data is very clear. In many reports, whether it was the Silicon Valley Index report, the Santa Clara County Annual Juvenile Justice Data Book, the county child welfare data, there are considerable investments in initiatives and services, and we've made tremendous inroads in supporting families and children and youth. However, the reality is that that there are disproportionalities and disparities that continue to impact, especially specific racial and ethnic populations, and the same San Jose communities and zip codes year after year. So while we are fortunate to live in one of the wealthiest cities in the country, we also recognize that the gap widens between those that can participate and benefit from this economy and the many children, youth, and young adults that continue to be left behind. And so I think that this quote kind of eloquently summarizes what we think is important, that all children and youth deserve to grow up with the confidence that their race, ethnic, or socioeconomic background, family history, LGBTQ status, identity, developmental disabilities, or zip code, that none of these factors taken together alone will be a barrier to accessing resources and supports and to achieving their dreams and full potential. And here are some wonderful faces of our children, youth, and families of San Jose. So I'm going to cover some background on just the work that we've done in developing the Children Youth Services Master Plan. I won't go through some of these slides too in depth because I've done a number of updates for you. But again, just to ground the audience, we wanted to make sure that we were designing and developing the master plan on some of the great work that has already been done by many departments, the Public Library, Parks and Rec, Office of Economic Development. But just to, again, kind of ground you, if you remember in the mayor's June 2021 budget message, out of concern of the pandemic that impacted a lot of young people, especially those families with low resources, were really impacted because they were displaced by work. The young students didn't have an opportunity to connect online and be engaged in their school. So out of that, City Council and the mayor directed the city manager's office to develop the Children Youth Services Master Plan. So that's really how it came about. And so again, we've really tried to ensure that as we've moved forward in the design, that we really have made sure that we grounded it on all of these other work that has been done over the last few years. And so as part of the Children Youth Services Master Plan development, it was important that the strategic framework and approach that we include the following: that it have guidance on policy and priorities and investments, that it focus on systems transformation, meaning like, let's not continue doing things the way we always do because our young people continue to suffer and to experience challenges. Let's do things differently. Ensuring that we have a continuum of support, meaning let's make sure that we have services from prevention all the way to intervention, and that we also think about what are all the different services that a young person needs, whether they're 5 years old, 12, or 20. So really thinking about kind of those developmental stages and the resources that they need. Making sure that we have long-term and sustainable impact and measurable outcomes, that we do this through a collective impact approach, meaning that we recognize that we, the city, can't do this alone, that it has to be in partnership with our families, with young people, with community partners, that we have an integrated service delivery system, meaning making sure that we have the ability and the resources to provide young people with different services, not just what we offer through the city, but also helping them access services through our partners, whether it's the County of Santa Clara or a community-based organization or a school. And of course, it's important to really embed this around diversity, equity, and inclusion, thinking about intergenerational trauma and poverty, and removing the systemic racism and structural barriers. So if you remember, and you were all very helpful in helping us with outreach and co-hosting a town hall. And so some of the activities that we did over the past year to really understand what are the needs that young people have, that families have, but also what are some of their strength and dreams for themselves and their families and communities. And so out of that, we were able to engage over 3,000 individuals, again, families, youth, service providers, city staff, community partners. We had 33 focus groups. We had 2 surveys, one for parents and caregivers and one for youth. And we were also able to engage over 120 organizations through this process. And so, as you can imagine, having the voices and input of over 3,000 individuals provided us with a lot of great input and feedback. And so with our consultant, we were able to, kind of sift through all of that and come up with and identify what were those priority areas that the community said were important to them. And again, these were comments that we heard consistently, whether it was a young person or a school district. And so these priority areas are the ones that came across pretty clearly. And those are around early learning and childcare, health and mental wellness, housing access and security, learning and empowerment, meaningful and sustaining jobs, safe, clean, and connected communities. And then lastly, systems transformation. In other words, having a system of care or a safety net that again could provide services for families and young people, regardless of whether they come into a community center or a library or the office of a community-based organization. And so you'll see here on the bottom, under each priority area are the expected outcomes. I won't go through each of them just because of interest of time. I know you have a busy agenda. So I'll just cover a couple of these around, for example, early learning and childcare, that all children experience nurturing adults in safe environments that support their optimal physical, cognitive, social, and emotional development. So what kinds of supports are we providing children and their families so that we can make sure that we achieve this outcome? I'll cover a couple more. So learning and empowerment, all youth graduate from high school and are empowered to access opportunities that enable them to realize their educational goals and prepare for a successful future. Safe, clean, and connected communities, that all youth and their families feel connected to each other and exercise their voice and leadership in strengthening their community in safe, clean, vibrant, and inclusive neighborhoods. And so again, out of these community engagement efforts, once we went through all of the data, we actually went back to our community partners, our families, and our youth to help us develop the vision statement that you see here, as well as the unifying purpose and the guiding values. And so the vision for the Children Youth Services Master Plan is to foster a future where every child and youth in San Jose blossoms into healthy, resilient, self-sufficient adults enriched with abundant opportunities to live, work, play, dream, and prosper within the vibrant landscape of Silicon Valley. And the unifying purpose is to create and expand opportunity pathways and supports from cradle to career that develop 21st century skills and lead to better health outcomes, sustainable employment, and a competitive living wage for San Jose children, youth, and young adults, birth through age 24, particularly for those vulnerable. And then the guiding values, meaning that as we move forward in this work, these are the values that we're going to make sure that we always consider in whatever program or service or approach that we move forward with. And so the guiding values are equity, accessibility and inclusion for all youth, outcomes and results driven, cross-sector collaboration, investment and accountability, and youth and community voice driven. And so if you remember in one of my previous presentations, I mentioned that as we started developing the Children Youth Services Master Plan, it became pretty clear that we needed to do something more than that. We couldn't just have a document. If we were really going to support children and youth to achieve their full potential and to ensure their well-being, we really needed to develop what we're saying, or we're calling an integrated and interconnected safety net. So we, the city of San Jose, we play a critical role in the community, just as the county does, community-based organizations and school districts. And many of the families that seek supports, especially in the county, for example, many of those families are from San Jose. And so we also felt that it was important for us to be at the table with these different partners to figure out how together we can better serve children and youth. And so as we started discussing developing this, what we're calling this system of care or the safety net, we quickly realized that we couldn't do this citywide. It's a huge project. It's a huge endeavor. And so in talking to our community partners and to city staff, we realized that it would be best to start small. And so we decided on launching this in 2 demonstration sites in 2 communities. And so one being Poco Way with the attachment neighborhood of Mayfair. And we're saying attachment neighborhood because they're fairly close geographically. And many of the partners serve both communities, and families tend to move between the 2 communities. Same thing with demonstration community 2, which is 7 Trees with the attachment neighborhood of Santee. And we would do this in partnership with our city departments. We have some of those listed here. So Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services, the Public Library, our Work to Future, housing. So a number of different organizations, city departments, as well as County of Santa Clara. And then of course, our youth and families. We want to make sure that youth and families that live in those neighborhoods, live in those communities, are part of this process because they know best what services would be more valuable to them, and also ensuring that as we're delivering these services, that it really does meet their needs. We've also have been able to engage the Alum Rock School District, the Franklin McKinley School District, and East Side Union High School District. And this is really important because then that means that we're able to include the districts that touch all of those students in those neighborhoods. And so the priority population for this project would be those families in those communities that fall within any of these areas. So families are experiencing, as we mentioned before, intergenerational trauma and poverty, are involved, whether it's in the child welfare system or probation, have some engagement with either youth or gang violence, teen pregnancy, are experiencing challenges, securing employment or continuing their educational path. And so we have just completed the draft of the master plan, and I believe that you all received a copy. And we're saying it's a draft because we wanted to have an opportunity to present it to our community partners, to our commission. So, for example, I presented to the Library and Education Commission last week. I've gone to the Parks and Recreation Commission. We're going to be presenting to the county in a couple of weeks. So we really wanted to have an opportunity to share it with folks, get some input and feedback. And then our goal is to present it to City Council right now. We're tentatively scheduled to present to City Council April 9th. And so between now and then, we're going to continue finalizing some different pieces of the master plan, but then also thinking beyond the master plan. If you had any opportunity to read the document, you see that there's a lot of work that's still involved. We wanted the master plan to be kind of one phase of the work, and then phase 2 and phase 3 is going to come after the master plan is approved. And so we're going to be continuing to map our city services. A lot of city staff, we all don't know everything we provide for children and youth, so we want to make sure that we have a pretty good understanding of what those services are. We're going to be developing an evaluation so we can come back and say, these are the outcomes, this is the impact that we're having. And then also, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Blue Zones, but the city is partnering with the county to do a Blue Zones readiness assessment. And that's going to be happening over the course of this year. And so we want to make sure that we're also aligning that to the master plan and to the rest of the work that follows. Youth and family engagement is an important piece. We engaged youth and families in the design of the master plan, as I mentioned earlier, through focus groups and surveys. But we want to make sure that we continue to do that as we move this work forward. And then, of course, there's a lot of work left around the demonstration pilot sites. And then, of course, we want to focus on sustainability, meaning how can we ensure that we have the resources and the supports to carry this work out. So we'll be trying to raise different funding from organizations, whether it's a county or philanthropy. So we'll be doing that as well over the next couple years. And then developing a reporting structure. So identifying when would be the best time to present to all of you, to the commission, and then to our city council and to our different partners on how we're doing in carrying out this work. So that's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No, we don't.
Okay, then I want to start off by saying thank you for your report. I really enjoyed the last year and a half of your reports, and I'm even more excited that we're so close to seeing the final draft. I had 2 questions to start off discussion. One is that as a person who has worked a lot on this master plan, what do you see the biggest impact is going to be of the plan and its objectives? And the second is, I might have missed it, but since youth are the target population of this plan, how will they be aware of what the master plan is if they ever want to see it? Like, since it's a very long document, is there going to be a shortened version that's available to the public for them to read?
Thank you, Commissioner. So answer the first one. There's a couple of things that we hope the community can get out of this document. One, we really tried to do a really deep dive to understand what are the challenges and barriers. And so that's why the document is so big, right? Because there's a lot of important data points, because we really wanted to paint a picture obviously the strength that we have as a city, but also the needs, right? Because sometimes it's really difficult to really understand, well, what are those specific needs and challenges that our young people face? So I feel like this document kind of brings all of that information together. So I hope that that's useful for anyone in the community who wants to just know that. And then the other piece is I really feel that the work that we've kind of all of us have embarked in over the past year and a half has created a lot of energy and synergy. And we're getting a lot of great feedback from the county, from community-based organizations, from city staff about, okay, how can we make sure that we continue this work so it doesn't just end with the document, right? And so that's why developing the system of care, this safety net that I just mentioned, will be really important, because that's really what's going to have impact on young people. Is that if we can create a safety net where a young person who's having whatever the challenge may be comes into a library, community center, that we have staff, that we have employees that can help that young person and their family connect to those services, right? As opposed to the young person trying to figure it out on their own. So that's question one. And then as far as question two, yes, it's a really huge document. And so we're very committed in making it a little easier and condensing it and make it a little bit more digestible for anyone, really, because again, it's a huge document and there's a lot of content. And so we'll be working on that. As soon as the master plan is approved, we're going to work with our consultant to figure out how can we simplify this and just make it a little easier to digest and to understand. So we'll be working on that for the next few months. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Commissioner Leung.
Hi, thank you
Hi.
so much for your presentation. So on the next step slide, I really liked how you outlined the next steps. So I'll be attending the kickoff meeting for the Blue Zone Steering Committee this week as like a District 7 and also an East Side Youth representative. So I really am curious about what it means to go from the Blue Zone Readiness Assessment to the demonstration and pilot sites.
Yes. So yes, and I'm excited to hear that you'll be attending the event on Thursday. So we're still kind of learning. This is all new to us, but our understanding in working with Blue Zones just over the last couple months is that they do a pretty comprehensive readiness assessment, but we're also making sure that they understand kind of the assessments and all the work that we did to develop the master plan, so it doesn't sound like it's duplicative, right? So they have a very kind of structured assessment process that they do for this readiness assessment. So that's going to take about 6 months. And then my understanding is that they're projected to then provide us with kind of like a final report and recommendations on where we, the city, kind of fits in their readiness assessment scale. And I don't know the specifics of that yet. But my understanding is that once we get that final report, they'll kind of point out what are some things that the city may need to work on to then become ready to become a Blue Zones city or a Blue Zones community. So we should be getting more of those details, I'm hoping, on Thursday, where we'll be learning about that. But all along, we've also have been pretty clear that we want to make sure that whatever findings comes out of that readiness assessment, that we're integrating it with the Children Youth Services Master Plan and with the demonstration sites, because again, we want to make sure that it's all interconnected and not out here by itself. Thank you.
Commissioner Leung.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation was lovely, and I was able to look through most of the document. And I really like the focus on all of these different kind of focus areas. I think it makes things a lot clearer. I guess my question was a little bit more about chronic absenteeism specifically. I think the learning and empowerment section was really interesting. And seeing some of the data and how much it's risen, especially within San Jose and especially within the Eastside Union High School District. Like it's risen pretty tangibly and pretty significantly. My question is, I was looking over like the long-term objectives and plans for addressing learning and empowerment, is how the city or the master plan can either further incorporate chronic absenteeism and addressing that issue specifically into the plan, or also like what that looks like right now.
Good, thank you for your question. So as I mentioned, we've been pretty fortunate in that the school districts have been pretty involved in helping us design the Children Youth Services Master Plan and providing input and feedback. So we're going to continue that relationship. And you're right. Chronic absenteeism continues to be a huge challenge. Of course, right after the pandemic, it was astronomical, really, like that first year, and it has steadily been going down, but it's still a huge issue. And so we're working pretty closely with the school districts, and we'll, as I mentioned, continue to do so to identify what are some of those challenges or barriers that are posing a problem and preventing students from returning, right, or being engaged in school. It could be a number of issues and challenges, right? The primary one is that from what we've heard, even just anecdotally, is that a lot of young people just kind of disconnected from the school, right? And they haven't been able to kind of feel like it's their home and reconnect. And then the other ones are just different barriers and challenges, whether it's, being unhoused or food or transportation. So together, we'll be able to identify those more specific challenges and barriers, and then develop some kind of system where we can then, and this wouldn't necessarily have to be us, the city, but through our partners, is figure out how can then we connect to those families and those young people who aren't attending school, right, or who are having chronic absenteeism, to see what kind of supports we can give them to re-engage them so that they can have a successful school year.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's really a comprehensive issue. And then I guess my second question was, what does the process of turning these long-term goals into like actionable policy solutions or things that we invest in look like from like a more specific level, not just for like a high level?
So some of the things that we'll have to think about is, how would we best connect, let's just say, again, a young person to services if they come into a community center? What would that process look like, right? And some of it would be training of our city staff. Some of it may be having maybe our community partners in the community center who have the knowledge and are able to connect that young person to different services. And then on a more macro level are there some policies that we, the city, can work on to make sure that we're not having barriers to services, making sure that we have more funding for scholarships or more opportunities for subsidized or free programs for young people, because we know that those are important. A lot of young people need supports with school, tutoring and those kinds of things. So what can we, the city, work on on policy level to address those challenges or barriers that come up?
Got it. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mascarenas.
For your report. I had a couple comments and I had a couple questions. So for comments,
yeah,
under Appendix T, you guys had a table which you guys listed like the goal, the expected outcome, the objectives, And I really liked that because it was easily digestible and it went into sort of the how of the solutions, which I really liked. More specifically in that area, I really liked the performance indicators and how you were able to quantify the measurement impact. I think that was great. Just one question on that section. So I noticed there are two ways of like strategies. There's the long-term strategies by June 2027, and then there's the community recommend strategies for consideration. And so I was wondering what the difference is between those two, because I think that there are some great things under recommended strategies for consideration. I was wondering if they were going to be implemented in a different way than the ones by 2027.
Yes, thank you for that question. So the long-term strategies, those are, some of those are strategies that have already been identified, for example, by city departments, and that city departments are already working on. That also came from community, right? And so it was easy to map those, right? And then what we're calling community recommended strategies, these were ideas that came from focus groups and surveys and, conversations that we had with partners and city staff. We didn't quite have the bandwidth and the time to kind of go through each of those and kind of figure out, okay, is there a department already that's doing that? Is there a county partner or a community-based organization? So we didn't want to lose them. And we didn't want the community to feel like, oh, you just ignored all all these ideas and needs that we want or are interested in. So we felt like a good way of kind of capturing them was to put them under these community recommended strategies. And then over the course of the next year or so, we'll be going through them and figuring out, okay, are some of these viable? Is this something that the city can do? Or maybe this is something that the county is already doing, or community-based organizations, or maybe some of our city staff are already doing, right, through the different departments. So it just kind of gave us an opportunity to kind of hold them somewhere and then be able to go back and still honor the comments and feedback that we got from families and youth.
Got it. I'd love to see those implemented. My second question
Thank you.
revolved around CBOs. And so a lot of the master plan revolves around CBOs and connecting them with resources. And so they already do great work in the community. And I was wondering how through the Children and Youth Services Master Plan, we were planning on enhancing their impact through support, or I was just wondering, like, what are the ways in which we're optimizing the impact that they have on our communities, given that they already exist?
Yes, thank you. So yes, there's a lot of great community-based organizations who are providing valuable services, and you saw in our list, we've already identified quite a bit of those, but we also acknowledge that there's a lot of other community-based organizations that we're not yet connected to or really understand the different services that they have. And so we're hoping again through this partnership, right, that we're able to coordinate our efforts a little bit more, right, by understanding what all those different partners are providing. So that's one way of kind of enhancing all of our work and our services to families and youth. But the other piece is also that we're committed to is we know that we, the city, in the county, by ourselves, we can't provide these services. So are there opportunities for us to bring in additional funding or additional partners who can help us with this work? So I've already, for example, have been applying for other funding sources. So Bardo Philanthropies has agreed to help us with the evaluation, which means that's an expense that we're not going to have to worry about. Or at least part of the expense, right? And so it's those kinds of things too that we want to be able to do is to see, okay, is there funding from other organizations that we can bring in to help support this work? Thank you.
Commissioner Mishra.
Hi, thank you so much for the informative presentation. So I had a quick question specifically on the educational and personal priority areas that you list out for children, like unity, health, graduating high school and college. Given that San Jose's population is like extremely diverse, how did you and the rest of the contributors to the master plan determine these important priorities for a child living here? Like what factors did you consider when listing them out? And how did you determine the most important or prevalent socioeconomic challenges faced by them?
So as part of the community engagement process that I mentioned, right, we heard through from city staff, from community-based organizations, county partners, families, youth. And so what we did is, well, actually our consultant did, is basically kind of started mapping all those responses and figuring out, okay, these are the things that we're hearing around education, or these are the things that we're hearing about wanting to be connected and feel safe in their communities. These are things that we're hearing about workforce development and career. And so that's how those priority areas came about. It was really like, hey, this is what we're hearing consistently through all these different community engagement activities. And so that's how those came about. And then we kind of did that initial work, and then earlier like spring of last year, we went back to our community and said, okay, this is what we heard. Does it sound like we're pretty close to what you're also hearing and understanding about the community? And so again, that kind of helped us refine them even more. And then as far as just understanding the diverse needs of our community, we're really going to lean on our city staff and our departments, and also our community-based organizations, because they know those communities the best, right? And so we're trying to make an effort, and we're really committed to partnering with organizations that serve diverse communities, right? Whether it's Vietnamese American or African American or Indo-American, whatever those populations are, we're really going to be looking to our partners to help us understand what are those different diverse populations, and then what are some of the language and communication capacities that we need to think about, right? So interpretation and translation and those kinds of things. Thank you.
Commissioner Pradeep Kumar.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Pradeep Kumar. I wanted to say, first off, that I really enjoyed your presentation and I was really impressed by it. And I had a specific question on the CSJ system of care, the safety net. And what I specifically wanted to ask was, I'm not sure if I didn't catch this in the presentation, more specifics on like the implementation and how like perhaps you'd have measurable data to see if the safety net is being beneficial to these two pilot sites?
Yes, thank you for your question. So we're giving ourselves the next year or so to design it and then to implement it. And then we really see kind of year 2 and 3 where we're doing kind of that quality insurance, quality improvement, right? Evaluating it, and then working with our partners and our families and our young people to say, are these services effective? You know, are they making change? Are they helping families and young people in whether it's changing their well-being or giving them opportunities to access career pathways or those kinds of things. So a lot of that is involved with evaluation. We could have presented the system of care like fully designed in the master plan, but we felt that it's important that this really be designed with community, right? With the families and the young people that are going to be accessing these services. And so that's why we wanted to give ourselves kind of like this next year to be able to get exactly that community input and feedback to say, what does this system of care look like? What are all the services that the community needs? And then with that, then we'll be able to determine the outcomes and impact and those kinds of things. And then kind of parallel to that is also working on the evaluation. So I'm hoping that by mid next year or by June 30th of next year, we'll have all of that pretty well designed, and then we can come back to you and say, this is what we're proposing. This is what it's going to look like. And then, as I mentioned, in year 2 and 3, then we'll do the evaluation, right? And then kind of keep doing that continuous quality improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Teelung.
I have a few more comments and questions if I wasn't earlier. But 2 comments / suggestions. Number 1, I really like the community recommendation aspect, and I almost wish it was somehow prioritized more, but I think that'll kind of iron itself out as you go through them. I think I was looking over the safe, clean, and connected community section, and it's cool to see that there's an ask for a participatory budgeting program, which is something we're working on as a youth commission this year too. The second thing is I want to, maybe I'm not seeing it, but I want to see more emphasis on how we can incorporate arts programs and art support into specifically learning and empowerment or health and mental wellness, because I think it plays a really big part in engaging youth communities, kind of pushing youth away from antisocial activity and sort of just sustaining wellness. So I just wanted to, I guess this is my first question. I just wanted to ask, is there a plan to further incorporate that into the master plan, or what does that kind of look like within the plan right now?
Yes. First of all, thank you for those 2 suggestions. I appreciate it. Yes, absolutely. Arts, recreation, enrichment activities, those are all invaluable and important to young people and to families and just the community. And so while we didn't spell it out in the master plan, they would be part of what we're calling kind of that continuum, right? Giving young people the opportunity to explore those different areas of art and recreation and those kinds of things. So again, we didn't explicitly indicate it in the master plan, but it's very well understood that would be part of the process. And I can also look through the document and see where it would make sense to include that, because I think that's an excellent point. Thank you for mentioning that.
There's so many community organizations that work in the arts too.
Exactly.
San
Yes.
Jose, Poetry San Jose, et cetera.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for mentioning that.
I think it could be a really good opportunity to put emphasis on that. And then my last question is kind of short. Maybe I might have missed it too, but are you running this through other youth bodies? I'm planning to run this through my youth advisory council too, but I'm just wondering about that specifically.
We are, so through our community-based organizations, they're all youth serving, they have youth groups. And so we're also kind of leaning on them to make sure that, again, this has the eyes and the input and voice of young people.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Janapati.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, so first of all, I want to thank you for all your dedication and hard work in materializing this 124 page manual for youth empowerment.
Thank
But
you.
and in particular, I really appreciated one of the sections about that discussed how a young person's surroundings can really improve their day-to-day interactions. I believe it was towards the end. And I really wanted to ask, how significant are the effects of a positive environment on a young person's day-to-day life?
Yeah, I mean, they're hugely important. And this is really grounded in research. And so in the document, as you noted, right, there we try to touch on some of the challenges and barriers that young people face if they don't have healthy and supportive environments, whether that's their neighborhood, like their physical neighborhood, or the family or friends network. And so the same is true for young people that have all the supports, right? When they feel safe in their community, when they feel like they have a place to go and congregate with their friends, or they have family that can assist them, during challenging times, and they have access to different resources. So yes, there's a lot of research around that. And so it's exactly why we want to make sure that more young people have those opportunities, right? Regardless of where they live or whether they live with a single parent or with an extended family, right? That they have all those positive relationships and supports in their home and community.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Commissioner Liu?
Okay, yeah, Ms. Buzo, we love having you here, and you certainly are the center of attention for this meeting. So we're glad to have you back. So there are a few questions that I did have, and I wanted to echo a lot of what my colleagues on the dais here said. Chronic absenteeism mentioned by Commissioner Leung was really, something that Overfelt, for example, really has seen, and it really has affected the learning environment, right? I see, when Commissioner Mascarenas mentioned, learning and empowerment, those are really core objectives to young people, right? We live them. And to have resources like this that benefits communities and high schools like mines, where there was a statistic that was done by the district, and it was only done once for Overfelt High School. And it showed that 20% of high school graduates from Overfelt actually graduated from a four-year university, right? If the district saw that and did it once, right? What could that number today look like? Could it be a lot worse? Could it be a lot more? There's no specific, metrics. So that's why metrics, I think, what a lot of my colleagues said, are really important, right? So I'll get straight to the point here. Government resources in general, especially, I'm gonna use an example, public housing or affordable housing, right? It's often stigmatized, right? Especially in East Side communities, people who, might raise their hand and are proud to live in those communities, especially among young people, are really low, right? So how can this master plan meet young people where they're at and destigmatize, governmental resources?
So there's a couple ways that we kind of hope that this kind of rolls out, right? One is having the engagement of all of you, because you are young people, right? You are in those communities, or the experiences that other young people have. And so your engagement at different points of this work is really important, right? It has been important as we develop the master plan, but again, as we move forward, your involvement, your engagement, your voices is really important to that. The other part is working with especially our community-based organizations, as I mentioned earlier. Those community-based organizations are in the community, right? Like they're serving the young people and the families that live in those communities. And so making sure that they're involved in this process, and many of them have youth groups as well, like, youth leadership groups. And so one of the things that we're working on is that we want to have some funds to be able to give young people stipends to participate in this process, because what we want to do is have young people talking to other young people, right? And young people from the community being involved in this process, because again, they live there, right? And to your point, they don't want to hear from someone like me, right? I mean, they want to hear from other young people. And so we want to be able to create a kind of like a youth leadership within those neighborhoods where they're being trained and they're going out and talking to young people about the services that are available, or how do you access this, or, what are some pathways for college or career, those kinds of things, because young people want to hear from other young people. And so that's a key element that we're really committed to. And so we're actively trying to secure funds so that we can provide stipends to be able to do that. over the next couple years. It's not something that we wanted to just have it be short term, but actually be part of the work, right? So that it just becomes an everyday part of how we serve young people, is that they're involved in the leadership role.
Right. Thank you. And I really want to try to emphasize, the importance of this. I think targeting, young people in leadership positions are great. We're happy to serve our communities. We're happy to live in our communities, I hope. These groups consist of, I think, a very specific type of person in the community, right? That usually hold an advocate role. So I really want to provide food for thought, right? And really, the word transform was mentioned in your presentation, right? So I want to encourage the city manager's office to really look into, how can we transform, the way that we show these young people resources, right? I think great presentations to a classroom, for example, that's great. Will it get engagement from communities like Oberfeld, where there is high absenteeism, right? There's distractions that are constantly around them, right? So I think it's definitely, especially if this is to try to uplift disadvantaged communities, I think looking at it differently is a really good way of doing it. And, I certainly don't have the answers. But I hope that, the city manager would be encouraged to look into that.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. We do have partners who, again, we know that it's always going to be like those certain youth, right? That kind of raise their hand and say, I want to help. But we do have partners who serve and support, for example, foster youth or gang involved youth. So it's those also other youth that we want to make sure that we attract. And we're hoping by having stipends and having other supports, that they'll want to become engaged. But yes, it's always a challenge, and we always have to try and be creative about how we can engage young people with different lived experiences.
Great. And I have one more question, and the chair has been really generous with my time. So thank you, Chairperson. This is a really big plan, and it's a living document, right? Is there a specific office, person, department that will overview this master plan long-term?
That hasn't been determined yet. I think when we go to city council in April, that might be something that may come up, and the city council may make a decision around that. As of now, I'm kind of, helping kind of shepherd this, but of course it's done in partnership with the library, Parks and Rec. Where it ultimately ends up, if it ends up in one of those departments or it ends up in city manager's office, we don't quite know. But I can say that we do have the commitment from the deputy city manager to make sure that this work lives on. I just don't know yet where that will happen. And hopefully in April, we'll have a better sense, right, of where it actually lives. But I think, again, regardless, the work will continue, and we have the support of the administration. So we're really happy about that.
Sounds like an opportunity to, transform who gets this.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leung.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you so much for sitting through all our questions and having the patience to answer them so carefully. So I think something Commissioner Liu said really resonated with the question was also brewing my head. But when you said system transformation, I thought of redesigning education and employment systems for youth and all these institutions that have been inequitable and inaccessible to our youth for so long. So the master plan did outline many existing gaps. For example, the nearly 7,000 who qualify for the McKinney Bento program in San Jose, and like the 42% who are at risk of food insecurity. So I was just wondering, what are some of the biggest ways the master plan hopes to actually transform, like you said, redesign systems?
Thank you. Well, we know some of the, as we mentioned, some of the structural racism and structural barriers that have been in place have gone on for generations, right? And so to undo some of that is going to take time, and we know that. And so it's going to be kind of a parallel process, right? Because we know that children, youth, and families, they have immediate needs, and so through our collective partnership with our different community stakeholders, we'll be making sure that we address some of those immediate needs, like the ones that you mentioned, right? Housing, food insecurity, and those kinds of things. More the system things are the ones that are going to take a little bit longer. And that's where it's going to involve kind of all of our efforts, right? To advocate for those changes and those improvements, those policies or investments. And so I don't have specific yet, but those are some of the things that through this partnership, we're going to be discussing, like how can we remove those barriers, as was mentioned earlier, to college and career, right? Or to just accessing services in our community, or to feel safe walking in your neighborhood. So, some of those are a little bit more complex and are going to take more time. But I'm hoping that collectively, again, with the support of the commission and city council members and our community partners, that we can work on those together and figure out, where are some priority areas that we can focus on to remove those barriers for our young people.
Yeah, thank you so much. I do truly hope that a specific way of transformation can be executed in the coming years. I guess another, this is a suggestion, but a suggestion I'd have for the master plan, but it is to look into fostering more mentoring relationships and cultures and programs in San Jose, just to put that emphasis into these meaningful, long-lasting, supportive intergenerational relationships between youth and older mentors, adult mentors. I'm pulling from my AP Psych knowledge here, but it's just that, with mentoring relationships, this increases participant connection to resources. It reduces the impact of generational trauma, increases these meaningful connections to their community, their self-esteem, self-identity. And if you guys can look into, Commissioner Mascarenas mentioned, CBOs that work with these issues, that address your concerns with youth and find ways to increase the mentoring emphasis, I think that'd be a great way to really have an overall, overall approach. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's a great point. I know that the library is developing the college and career pathways, and mentorship is one of those kind of key elements that they want to make sure are included in it. We also recognize that even through our recreation programs, kids, young people need mentors, right? And so wherever that young person can get that mentorship, we want to make sure that that happens, because you're right. Having a positive adult, whether it's in the family, a friend, or a community-based organization, it has just a wonderful impact on a young person. So yes, definitely it is something that we want to ensure that it's done across the board.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Singh.
Yeah, hi. So thank you so much for giving this presentation and taking your time to answer all of our questions. So I just have a minor kind of question. I saw COVID-19 referenced a couple times throughout this document, and the most where it stood out to me the most was on page 59 when it referenced the Children's Road to Recovery from COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, how relevant do we think COVID-19, something which happened 5 years ago, is going to how relevant will that be to the actions that we discussed in this document moving forward?
Yeah, it's still relevant. There's a lot of data still, just, on chronic absenteeism, for example, even how students are doing back in school, right? There's still a lot of students who just academically are not at grade level because they were remote, right? Learning, and that had some challenges and barriers for them. So there is impact still. We also know that some families, because of COVID and our shelter-in-place orders, right, weren't able to work and or their businesses closed. And so I can't say for certain how much longer that impact will be, but we are hearing that families are still being impacted. And so I think we're seeing it in different ways. But again, you know, having the relationship with our community-based organizations and having youth and families part of this design will ensure that we can hear directly from them on what are those challenges and barriers that they're still facing as a result of the pandemic.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Commissioner Bonsall.
Okay, sorry. I just want to say thank you so much for your presentation. It's been really exciting to see how much the master plan has developed and grown throughout these past few years, and I'm so excited that the Youth Commission can be a part of it. I don't have a question because all my questions have basically been answered, but I just want to say thank you for consistently showing up to our meetings and giving us presentations. I think I can speak on behalf of all of us that we really do appreciate it. Something that you said that really stood out to me was that young people want to hear from young people, and I think this is an amazing opportunity for that to happen. And I think it's amazing that you guys are also actively trying to provide stipends for youth. So I just want to say that this is an amazing plan, and I'm excited to see how it folds out.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez Munoz.
So I have a quick suggestion and a question. So I'm close with an organization called Project Hope. I don't know if you've heard of it. So I've worked with them for years, and I've worked with them with the with the with it was like it's an organization with them too, that help out the community and everything. But they Project Hope also helps out people who are in need of like finding a job, and they also help out youth with like school problems. So my question was, what specific organizations will you be working with to for mental health?
Yes. So we've been pretty fortunate that the county has really been supportive of this work of developing the master plan. So we have Santa Clara County Behavioral Health Services that provides a lot of mental health services and supports schooling services and the wellness centers. So that's a great partnership. And then also, of course, we know that some community-based organizations also provide mental health services. So again, we'll make sure that we continue to explore all those different partnerships so we can figure out, okay, what organizations can support young people around behavioral health services, mental health services. And yes, the Project Staff Hope have been just phenomenal in this partnership. And we're going to continue working with them around the demonstration site.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you for your presentation. It was really wonderful.
Thank you.
Commissioner Liu.
All right. You will be coming back to present to us in April, and I wanted to, ask from the time period that you're presenting to us now till that presentation that you'll give us in April, what next steps are the city manager's office taking to finalize those plans?
So we've kind of spent the last month and a half sharing the master plan. As I mentioned, we sent it out to community-based organizations, to city staff, to county partners, to commissioners, to again kind of get feedback and input. So if you notice the current document, it was all narrative, right? So we haven't put any design to it. So our plan is in the next month is do the actual design. So it's going to look slightly different. We really just wanted to focus on the writing on the narrative section because we didn't want to go in and do the design and then we get input and feedback and, we'd have to make too many changes. So
The overall narrative section of the document's not going to change a whole lot. There might be some editing here and there. But again, the substance will be the same. What'll look different is the cover. And then once you go through the pages, it'll have the nice visuals and graphics and some of that. And so then once it's approved by City Council, we've kind of gotten a jump start on working on the demonstration sites. So we're going to continue working through that. And so we're really giving ourselves the next the next few months to work on that with our city staff and with our community partners, with families and youth. And that's really where we're going to be spending our time. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we also want to make sure that we're bringing in additional funding, additional supports from other organizations. So that's kind of the work that we'll be doing in the next few months.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then of course the blue zones, right? Because that's happening as well. And so there might be some learning that'll happen then too.
Commissioner Mascarenas.
Hi, I had a quick recommendation. So under strategic priority area health and mental wellness, I was looking at under appendix. And under goal and expected outcome, it says nurture. I was wondering if that could be reworded, because I think that especially they already are resilient, and given all the situations. They are resilient already, and maybe reword it to say something about how the youth services master plan maybe improves their ability to have to be resilient and reduces their that was
Okay.
just a quick recommendation which I had.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any more questions? If not, thank you for being here today and
Thank
for
you.
all of your past reports.
Thank you. Can I just say, I want to just thank all of you in the Youth Commission, just as a body, for your continued support and partnership. Way back when we co-hosted Youth Town Hall and focus groups, and helping disseminate the surveys. And again, just at the meetings, providing ongoing input and feedback and guidance. So thank you so much for your support.
Right,
I
thank you.
appreciate it.
So we want to support this document after we review its final form. So do we have a motion to hold a special meeting in early April to review the final draft?
Motion to schedule a special meeting in April to go over the children.
We won't be deciding the,
Motion to have a meeting.
okay, any seconds?
Commissioner Gonzalez, any seconds that motion?
Okay, then we'll move into a vote. Okay, and the motion passes unanimously. So we'll move on to our reports and information section. Our first item is Councilmember Kume's office, Alex Dersh.
Good evening, everybody. I'm excited more than usual to do this report tonight because the format has been changed slightly per conversations with library staff and per the vice mayor's direction. So today I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive into a specific council item regarding council item 8.2 from the City Council's January 30th agenda called Addressing Encampments and Oversized Vehicles Around Schools. I'll give you some background, some legislative history, details about the item, and then legislative horizon. As of January 2023, San Jose has had at least 6,266 unhoused residents. Many Many live in encampments or inside vehicles of varying sizes. Some live in proximity to K through 12 schools, and sometimes encampments and lived-in vehicles are located on or along sidewalks. In the past few years, residents, students, school administrators, and parents have raised concerns about encampments and lived-in vehicles obstructing pathways to school, as well as safety concerns associated with waste and debris. In 2021, Council adopted an encampment management policy, which included prohibiting encampments within 150 feet of a school property. However, this did not apply to lived-in vehicles due to limitations stemming from state law. In May and September of 2023, Council directed staff to evaluate ways to address parked oversized vehicles and accessory vehicles, such as boats and trailers. And on August 9th, 2023, the Rules Committee directed staff to draft an ordinance prohibiting encampments and lived-in vehicles within 150 feet of preschools, daycares, and K-12 schools. In evaluating legal avenues to accomplish this objective, staff looked at a possible ordinance that would utilize posted signs that prohibit parking of oversized vehicles, since many lived-in vehicles are RVs, and RVs are considered oversized. After months of research, staff from the Transportation Department and the Police Department presented a report at the January 30th Council meeting with analysis and policy recommendations on ways to address encampments and oversized vehicles around schools. Council voted to accept the staff report's recommendations with modifications pursuant to a January 26th memo from Mayor Mahan and Council members Jimenez, Cohen, Ortiz, and Doan. The adopted recommendations by Council are as follows. To update the August 9th, 2023 rules direction to instead direct staff to conduct an engineering assessment that identifies safety hazards for pedestrians, bicycles, or vehicles caused by parked oversized vehicles on public roadways within 150 feet of impacted K-12 schools. In addition, direct the city manager's office to do the following, and this is where the real meat of the matter comes in. Prepare an ordinance that would prohibit oversized vehicles in public roadways within areas where an engineering assessment has identified safety hazards for pedestrians, bicycles, or vehicles caused by parked oversized vehicles, and allow council to add other prohibited areas. Prepare an ordinance that would prohibit oversized vehicles within any area that prohibits overnight parking and allow council to add other prohibited areas. Identify funds in the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget for a pilot program to enact no oversized vehicle and/or no overnight parking tow-away zones at 3 K-12 schools most impacted by parked oversized vehicles. Draft an ordinance prohibiting encampments within at least 150 feet of K-12 schools. Evaluate a possible ordinance modeled on Mountain View's ordinance that would regulate parked vehicles that discharge sewage on the public right-of-way. Direct the city's intergovernmental relations team to advocate for state legislation expanding municipal towing authority, and direct staff to follow best practices during enforcement of new parking ordinances, such as offering outreach, connections to supportive services, and other appropriate assistance for individuals who are physically incapable of moving their vehicle, seeking recovery of a stolen vehicle, or inhabiting a vehicle near their child's school. In order for the final ordinance to be adopted, staff will take time to draft a proposal. Eventually, they will return to council with this draft. At the moment, staff are expected to return to council sometime in March with a proposed oversized vehicle ordinance. When council hears this proposed ordinance, council members will give feedback and direction to staff. Council could take three main paths. One, council could direct staff to return at a later date with a new draft that includes recommended modifications. Two, council could reject the proposed ordinance and not direct staff to evaluate it further. This would end the legislation's journey, and if council wanted to address the issue again in the future, then they would have to direct staff to begin the drafting process again. Third, council could adopt the ordinance as drafted with direction to staff on next steps. In order for the ordinance to be practically implemented and enforced, council would have to set aside funding in the city budget. This would require council to adopt appropriations in the budget cycle, which means that the council specifically allocates a portion of the city's budget to be spent for this purpose. Stay tuned for newly published council agendas and look out for the items sometime in the near future so you can learn more and give your input. My sources for this presentation were the city staff's memorandum from the January 30th item, which you can find in the agenda, as well as the San Jose homelessness point in time count from 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Okay, then we'll move on to our PRNS report. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. For the PRNS updates, my name is Mo. Registration for spring 2024 opened on Saturday, February 22nd. The spring 2024 community activity guides are available online, and all of our community centers will be closed on April 1st in observance of Cesar Chavez Day. Additionally, we're hiring for recreation leaders, lifeguards, and assistant swimming pool managers. And those recruitments can be found online on our City of San Jose website. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? If not, then we'll move on to our library report. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Vidya Kilambi from the library. Here is the library update. The City of San Jose was recognized with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance's highest honor for its digital equity work and was presented with the Visionary Digital Inclusion Trailblazer Award during a special honor ceremony in Philadelphia on February 13. At SJPL, family, students, and all residents can borrow tech devices for free, attend digital skill building programs, access affordable high-speed internet resources, and even connect to the internet at and around several high school attendance areas, thanks to a special partnership with the Eastside Union High School District. Pre-registration is now open for summer 2024 We Thrive High School Entrepreneur Camp. Teens are invited this summer through hands-on lessons provided by We Thrive. Participants will learn how to create a business model, plan to solve a community problem, and/or sell their creative works, purchase supplies, and create a marketing plan. Program starts on Tuesday, June 11, 2024, and will be held at SJPL's Teen HQ. For more information about the camp and how to pre-register, please visit our events page at sjpl.org/events. For this year's presidential primary election, nearly all San Jose Public Library locations have 24-hour drop boxes for your convenience. Please visit our website to view the complete list of library drop-off sites and voting centers. Free tax help is available as well at the library. Prepare your 2023 taxes with tax assistance from volunteers from Tax and volunteer income tax assistance programs, which provide free tax help prep for qualifying taxpayers with an income less than $64,000 annually. Tax help is available weekly at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Library, where registration is required to receive assistance, and at the Hillview, Pearl Avenue, and Seven Trees branch libraries, where walk-ins are welcomed. With March right around the corner, the San Jose Public Library is gearing up to celebrate Women's History Month, St. Patrick's Day, Developmental Disability Awareness Month, and the Persian New Year. We will offer specialized, informative, and family-friendly programs throughout the month of March. Library staff have compiled reading lists and blogs for people of all ages to enjoy. And please stay up to date on all these celebrations by visiting our website at sjpl.org. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Okay, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our chair report. First, out of 4 things, our next in-person meeting has been moved up a week. So it'll be on March 18th. Any items that you want to add onto the consent calendar or our agenda need to be submitted by March 6th. Also, the whole commission is encouraged to attend the oak tree planting in Mary Jane Hammond Park from 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Please encourage your YAC members to attend and sign up. And if you have any questions, please visit the registration page for more details or ask our citywide commissioner. If you are interested in presenting the annual report to the Neighborhood Services and Education Committee on May 9th, please inform me as soon as possible so that we can get a quick head count. And finally, the Education and Digital Access Survey is going to be on the City Council agenda tomorrow in the afternoon. So if you wish to contribute and provide public comment, you must be in person, but that is always an option. And that is it for my chair report. We'll move on to our commissioner reports per district. We'll start with District 1.
Hi guys, this is Commissioner Mishra. My updates are pretty much all regarding my District 1 Youth Advisory Council. So currently we're organizing a career exploration fair to showcase various student-led organizations, school clubs, and more, which aims to guide local teenagers in their college and career journey by offering them valuable insights into diverse future career paths, promoting community engagement, and showcasing the vast majority of career opportunities available to them. Through this initiative, we hope to benefit high school and middle school students by fostering meaningful connections with these organizations, and we hope to benefit these organizations by supporting and promoting them. We currently have around 5 interested organizations and around 35 interested attendees. It'll take place on March 22nd from 4:30 to 6:30 at Cupertino Library. So if you guys would like to be a part of it, please let me know. We're also planning on refining a memorandum that addresses unsafe conditions in transportation during peak hours surrounding school campuses by establishing clearly marked bike lanes, implementing crossing guards, and working closely with schools, parent groups, and community organizations to identify areas for safety improvements. And yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. District 2.
Hi, everyone. So for my first update, I recently met with the leader from the District 2 Neighborhood Association, and we discussed different ways the District 2 YAC can actively participate in the Neighborhood Association's activities. And they specifically wanted to collaborate on 2 events, which is Dumpster Day on Saturday, April 6th, and National Night Out at Baskin Ridge Park, which is on August 6th. So if you guys are available, you should definitely come attend those 2 events. And additionally, on Saturday, February 12th, the YAC convened for a meeting, and this session was basically just reviewing flaws and successes of a recent toy drive that we had. And we were joined by a bunch of leaders from District 2 Neighborhood Leadership Council, and they discussed more opportunities for how our YAC could be involved with their neighborhood activities. And yeah.
Thank you. For District 3's update, at our next YAC meeting, we'll be finalizing our Green Canopies policy memorandum and discussing their personal projects. We will be looking into more policy options and going over what the Youth Commission has already done and reviewing upcoming events that are available for them to attend and whether there are opportunities for them to help out. District 4.
District 4 is working on several events and policies. As prefaced before, well, we just held a litter pickup this weekend at Flickinger Park, which was really cool. And we had some community members show up, some youth members show up. But in terms of events coming up pretty soon, on the same day as the tree planting, we're also holding a sort of Narcan training event where we'll be learning more about how to administer Narcan, and then also just safety and drug safety related to specific at-risk communities, including a presentation from the LGBTQ youth space, some sort of tobacco oriented organizations, and also an EMT that we've connected with. And then in April, we also have some events. We're working on finalizing the plan for our Shark Tank Junior event, and then our environment and composting awareness event, which will bring a bunch of environmental clubs together. And then we are also finalizing our plan for the Aspire, Inspire, and Motivate conference, or the AIM conference in June, securing some really cool speakers including Assemblymember Alex Lee and some other business people from around the city who will be participating in a panel. So I preface this every time, but super, super excited for that. And then we're working on a policy to try to increase the amount of menstrual products in libraries. But yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, District 5.
Great. So I'd first like to recognize the folks who came out for public comment earlier. I know that our system works in that you say something and then it's not particularly on the agenda, so we don't discuss it. Welcome to government, as our council members like to say, and thank you so much for saying what you said, and we'll definitely bring it back to our districts and discuss them. So the District 5 Youth Advisory Council has met February 17th. We had a conversation with Councilmember Ortiz staff to move forward on partnership opportunities with the establishment and acceptance of our new civic engagement work plan initiative. I look forward to, in March, leading a ad hoc committee on a candidate forum that we will be doing later this year, per the election cycle. District 5 had hosted a policy conference last year in April. This year, with the addition of the new objective, I hope to bring it under the purview of the Youth Commission. You might have to mandatory attendance, but we are working on that, and we'll coordinate with staff to make sure that that's possible. Okay, and that is my report.
Thank you, District 6.
Okay, so I have a short update, but on the communication side of the commission, we're working to promote new events, new upcoming Study Smart programs, digital video content, and more, so stay tuned. And this is a reminder to the whole commission that if you want anything promoted on our Insta or our new TikTok, just text me and I'll get on it. I'll make a graphic and everything that you guys can promote. And then for my district, District 6, we're working to solidify the date of our next meeting, but we're continuing to gain new members through new flyers and new outreach, and we're working to inform them on all things Youth Commission. We also hope to soon draft something related to mental health, just as like a brief outline. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, District 7.
Okay, so from District 7's corner, I met with Councilmember Duan earlier this month to address policy and events of youth in District 7 concerns. And we've also broken ground with the memorandum to implement gender violence helpline placards in city bathrooms. We are hoping for a successful implementation by the summer of 2024. Fingers crossed. And this would not be possible without the collective work of the Gender Violence Ad Hoc Committee. So thank you guys. And I've also been working with the Youth Participatory Budgeting Ad Hoc Committee. And District 7 YAC has been working full steam ahead to plan the Creative Futures Fair, which will promote entrepreneurship and successful career skills. Our fair will elevate youth entrepreneurs through a free space for them to promote and sell. We've received 40 vendor applications, including published authors, internet famous crocheters, and 2 Food Network Kids Baking Championship winners. And the idea for the fair originated completely from my YAC members, and I'm excited about hosting this celebratory space for city youth, and hope my fellow commissioners can come through and attend this event on March 17th, 2024 at Yerba Buena High School. And that's it for District 7.
Thank you, District 8.
So my commission report is I had a YAC meeting on Tuesday, February 13th, and me and my YAC members talked about how we can help homelessness, and we're also scheduling to attend a litter pickup at Orpha or a food distribution at Wells Park next month. And yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you, District 9.
So this month we didn't actually have a YAC meeting, but we were working on outreach. So we're trying to reach out to the environmental clubs in our district so we can get more hands to help with the Native Oaks planning thing. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this one.
Thank you, District 10.
Yeah, so one of the events we did this month was we partnered with a local neighborhood association to host a supervisor county candidate forum. So they had invited some supervisors from the county level, and we helped host a forum that had around 40 attendees, which was great. I'm currently working with PRNS to try and adopt a park in D10, which is proving quite difficult. A lot of the parks and the city website is not updated, but that's in the works. I'd like to promote the park cleanup, as Vedant has worked very hard on it. Please invite your YACs and we'd love for the commissioners to come as well. I sent a text message in the GC, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, feel free to check that out. And other than that, we had around two YAC meetings, and committees have just been doing their work.
Thank you. Citywide.
Thank you. So we are 19 days away from the Oak Restoration Project. So like Nolan and Deetra mentioned earlier, please promote that to your YACs whenever you get the chance. And really anyone between the ages of 14 to 20 is welcome. All they need is just a willingness to contribute to native plant restoration. And I also met with my YAC on February 12th, and we discussed 4 potential projects to pursue. So 3 of these are oriented around education and educational awareness, so they'll probably be pushed out to the summer. So the next citywide will probably be spearheading those. And additionally, Commissioner Mascarenas is conceptualizing an awareness campaign with the environmental ad hoc. So right after the Oak Restoration Project, we will be giving him our full support for that. And I'd also like to thank everyone in the ad hoc for all their work in really pushing out this native oak restoration project. Really, we couldn't have done it without them. So next month, I'll be attending a virtual workshop on citywide resilient and equitable water supply strategies. So we'll be providing some updates of what goes on over there. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our future agenda items. If you have agenda items that you're looking to have on our March meeting agenda, or if there are anything, Commissioner Loon.
Not for the March agenda, but for the April agenda. I sort of forgot to give an update on the manager's budget agenda for the rest of the commission, but we finished drafting it and we're going to change a few things, but we tentatively have a plan set out to allocate funding towards 2 specific projects for the Youth Participatory Budgeting Program pilot, centered around sexual violence and centered around housing and homelessness. We're still kind of figuring out the details though, and they would definitely change as we continue to sort of streamline the draft. But that's what it'll look like. Yeah, that's that.
Okay, thank you. If anybody else has agenda items that they're looking to have on the agenda, or if there are any things that stuck out from what the speakers said at the open forum that you want to add to our next meeting, please say it now. Okay, so we'll move on to our meeting schedule. Our next in-person meeting will be on March 18th at 6:30 in City Council chambers. Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Hi, Commissioner Singh, motion to adjourn.
Any seconds?
Commissioner Mishra seconds the motion.
Okay, then we'll vote. This motion passes unanimously, and the meeting is adjourned at 8:13 p.m.